Yes, hello, Shelter FootyCasters. We're still here. Don't worry, the footy seasons are wrapping up all over the country, but Mark Reddings and Will Scoville will bring you the best of the best of the best of the best, sir, with honours on the Shelter FootyCast. Skeeter, how are you?
Yeah, it's like the Shelter FootyCast reheated. We just bring out some of our favourite moments.
What are you wearing?
I'm wearing a Paywise shirt. And I'll tell you why, because I went to a Bucks Day on Saturday down in Freo. Good
yeah,
mate,
we heard about this.
Yeah, but then I ended up accidentally, at the end of the day, at a 40th called Renee was her name. She works at Paywise. I didn't realise I was going into a... So I just want to say well done to Renee. Thanks for having me there for an hour or two, and Frankie Agostino. And I'd had a couple. Cause
did anyone see you down in Freo? Any Shelter FootyCast fans see you?
No. We sort of went from...
It must be a first public outing you haven't been confronted by.
Yeah, well, Freo's not really my natural domain, so it's sort of outside of my habitat. Yeah, it's just not my...
How was it?
It was fine. As I ended up at a 40th that I wasn't invited to, but that's okay. You sort of ingratiate yourself, and then...
Did you go down my venue down there? Urban Winery?
No, because we were with... It was a tour group went from, I think, is it tonic and ginger or gin and tonic? Something, anyway, near Fremantle Oval. Right there into...
just near my venue, yeah.
Yes, yeah. I didn't know you had a video. Anyway, and yesterday, you'll be impressed with this. Yesterday, I went up. My wife has bought a part ownership of a harness racing horse, which I didn't know about really. And
No.
And on the way up there, you know what we did?
Victoria's bought a horse.
She's bought part ownership in a horse, yeah.
And you've had nothing to do with it.
And nothing. I didn't know we've been paying fees for the last 6 months either. So there you go.
What's it called?
It hasn't been named yet, so it's just getting its. They're putting it together.
Sorry.
And on the way up to Wanneroo, which I didn't know they had a trotting track up there.
Yes, you did.
I didn't. They picked I picked strawberries for the first time in my life. Went to a field, big. It's massive. It is big, and I was picking strawberries, not very well.
How'd you go?
And Vic wasn't happy with me because she thought I was absolute waste of space. So she was down there bending her back. I seriously, I picked strawberries yesterday.
Oh, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is why we're still on air. This is just a gift that keeps on giving. If we're talking about horses, I just had a little look on Instagram because very rarely am I disappointed with the listeners and viewers of the Shelter FootyCast, but I did ask for some Mark Redding sightings, and I haven't had any this morning.
Pretty low key. I sort of keep. What I did do, I could have trained for the first time from Mount Lawley down to Fremantle. I've navigated my way through that, which
How'd you go with that?
I was proud.
Did you buy a ticket?
I did buy a ticket.
Tap on?
4 zone. No, a tap on in New York. We just tap your credit card.
This on paper ticket.
Yes. So I worked it out. I was really happy with myself.
Boys, this is from Instagram on over the weekend. Just to clarify, I was a few shelters deep at this stage, but there was a horse called Skeeter in the last at Northam on Thursday, paying $51, and I've backed him each way. Drink and gamble responsibly. Cheers, lads. I don't know how it went.
I guess I'll have to follow that up. So Skeeter on Thursday.
Skeeta. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be getting into some football today. I'm half sort of excited about this one. We've been talking about doing this one for a little bit. We're going to go through the AFL state of the game. So Joe Biden, Donald Trump, Mark Reddings, Will Scoville will be going through how the game sits right now. Look at the media, look at the fixtures, look at the draft, look at the women's competition.
How can we improve the game?
Yeah.
Is everyone happy with it? Because ordinarily... you look back at the season and go, what needs changing? I think the big issue, which we'll touch on maybe, is the MRO and the tribunal where that sits. Because that, from my read of your body language during the year, that's the one, and for most people, that's the one that had us confused, most importantly, forget us, got the players confused as to what is admissible and what's not.
Which is dangerous. If you don't have your tickets to San Cisco, that is Friday, 8th of November. So not this Friday, but the next. That'll be playing at Shelter down in Busselton. Make sure you get your tickets to that. You can get 10% off beers right now on shelterbrewing.com.au. You can get delivered to your door, 10% off with the code ShelterFootyCast. Skeeter, I reckon before we get into it, the US election, we've been following.
I follow it really closely. I've just come back from the States, and it's
Did you
fascinating.
see Trump on? Have you seen? I've just listened to 3.5 hours of my hero Donald Trump on Joe Rogan.
And got to
I'm being
say,
facetious.
yeah, it's interesting. I'll take my views out of it and say it is so bizarre sitting back, a country that big and so powerful. And yet they are so divided, and that's unfortunately it's quite bitter. It's really bitter.
Well, if you take a serious look at it, it's quite probably scary.
Yeah,
but if you take the look that we look at most things, I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's a personality contest. He's on Rogan calling her an idiot and that she'd be comatose on the ground if she sat down and did a 3-hour interview. I find that hilarious. I'm not Liberal or Labor or Republican or Democrat. I'm not any of those. I just think it's absolutely hilarious.
But how do people take him seriously? I asked that. And look, you've said to me you think Kamala can't give a right answer.
She can't win. It's all like, this is all. I
think it's all over, which is sad. It's sad. It is sad because we've got some idiot at 78 years of age saying there'll be no cows if she's president.
But then you've got idiots like you that take one sentence out of context. And
okay, let me go back.
But we'll bring Biden back.
No, let me tell you this.
How was he going? He couldn't string a sentence together.
He was going terribly. But let me tell me this. Going back 4 years ago when Trump was president, pandemic came out, COVID, he ignored it. He ignored it. 1 million people died because you refused to move on it.
Oh no!
You can't say that he was a good president. You can't say he's a good human being. He's a narcissistic. Imagine this, just quickly. Imagine this: having someone stand as prime minister here, which I don't know if you could, if you're a convicted criminal, a rapist, as in a sexual assault against you.
Anyway,
he has sexual assault.
I would, if we want to compare Australian politics to American, I reckon we're just as bad over here, mate.
In different ways.
There's no one that's actually a real person in politics over here. You can't relate to anyone. That's how he's getting votes. Once again, I promise you, I don't support either side.
No, I agree.
But he is just going, I'm a businessman.
Lowest common denominator. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to people like a normal person. Like all these politicians, mate, do my head in.
He doesn't speak like a normal person, though.
Both in Australia and in America.
You know, he speaks with hate. That's the problem. I don't know.
It sounds like you're a Democrat.
No, I'm a natural Republican, and I like my politics. But I don't like people. He speaks with hate, and that's unfortunately that's where we're at. And you'll get in. That's right. You'll get in. And, life will move on.
I think what summarises this whole thing is I was just showing, he's live at Madison Square Garden right now.
Yes.
Right? And I was just showing you some clips off Dr.
Phil.
Dr. Phil was opening up for him. Like, what? That's what I mean. I don't think, you can hear some emotion in your voice. I don't think we need to get too much into politics. It's absolutely hilarious, mate. That old mate Harris had Beyonce come to a thing in Texas.
Eminem.
And then, but didn't, everyone thought she was playing. So 100,000 people's gone down the stadium. She's gone on and said a few words and then just pissed off stage again. It's absolutely, it's an hilarious thing to watch.
It's great voyeurism for us, but you're right. It's humorous, but it's also pretty sad that's where we're at, that a bloke is going to be 82 running the United States of America. And his opponent, to be fair, wasn't even elected by her constituents.
Yeah, correct.
So there's arguments both sides. Don't get me wrong. I just don't like.
Who's running the country right now?
Well, Joe Biden's president until the handover takes place to either.
Is he still president?
Yeah, he is. Of course, he is until the end of his term. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So he's running the country.
So he's president until the end of his term in January.
There is rumours that he may not be alive. Will Schofield, Mark Reddings,
Melania, is she alive? She did turn up at the rally, by the way.
Who did? Melania?
Melania, she turned up. So that's the first time in about 3 years that they've been seen together in public.
Very good. What does this mean here? Oh, just before we get into the footy.
Yes. Anything else you...
What you've written there, who told us about this? Just...
Dan.
And
no, it was Matt.
Yeah. So good friends at Shelter. Good day at the races. I don't know. It may have been in the last decade or so. So I'll give you a 10-year period. I don't know exactly when this has happened. Yeah. Right? Day at the races. This story could be about you, right? If it's based at the races, you might have been there.
Well, yeah. Possibly.
Here in Perth at Ascot.
Yes.
Day's wrapped up. From reports, the facilities were, maybe some lines in the facilities. People
toilets, you mean?
Toilets, yes. And I've had reports that someone was doing a wee on a wall somewhere.
That wouldn't be me.
No, it wasn't.
Hold on.
No, it wasn't you. Quite the opposite, in fact. You weren't happy about it.
Oh, really?
You came storming down some stairs, and I've got, and I quote, "You've got no class, mate. You've got absolutely no class. You've got no class." This is you. This is you, full of piss, no doubt. You've got no class. And old mate, while still pissing, turned around, saw it was you, knew it was you, and said, "Tell someone who cares, Skeeter."
Imagine that's your son, just relieving himself on a wall at the races.
Does that sound right?
I reckon I might have said that to some bloke at some stage. Yeah,
Very good. All right.
at least I said that. I mean, I was trying to be, but mate, right in front of all women and kids, it's like, yeah, no, it might be up your alley. But
you know what? You should actually run for. I think you
run for what?
For politics.
You know
mate.
what?
You've got
Zero chance. I'll tell you why. In brief,
you're so passionate, mate.
Not passionate. I got too many skeletons. I'm not going anywhere near it. I'll get picked apart too easily.
Mate, welcome, mate. Oh, a skeleton closet with bones floating around everywhere. Okay, footy. A few things have happened over here. One thing over the West. Tom Emmett was delisted. I thought that was surprising last week.
A little bit disappointing. Obviously, the Shea Bolton's arrival, I'm not saying that's the main reason, but it has to be a factor. Look, he didn't take his chances late in the season. It was against Port Adelaide where he probably...
Plays a role, though. He's not a key position.
No,
he's not a small forward.
He's more a small forward,
Yeah,
though,
but he's not. He's in between. He's like a power small forward, right? So he's not going to have your 20 touches. They probably want that out of him. He's not going to do that. I watched him play a game in the Waffle. I think it was
not the grand final, obviously.
The grand final last year.
Okay, yep.
And his work rate defensively was the best on the ground.
And I think you summed it up there. That's his number one attribute, his ability to put pressure on. And that's highly valued in footy clubs.
West Coast?
Well, you think small forward-wise, you'd hope from an Eagles perspective that Tyler Brockman comes on, that they've got Noah Long, small forward. So they're probably catered for that. And Owies, yes, as your third person coming in.
All right, cool. Cam Rayner, 6-year extension. Happy, sad?
Signed half a course, isn't it?
2031. Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about this in the start of the game, the contract situation.
That contract
that doesn't really mean anything.
No, the contract is a piece of paper that we now know is irrelevant. It just doesn't. Good on him for being. And I sincerely hope he sees out the 6 years. But we've seen it with Clayton Oliver. That almost was torn up, and we've seen it with lots of long-term contracts not transpiring. But off the back of a premiership. Happy days for him. Good on him.
Tim Emery's going to sign with Collingwood. I think he has, if he hasn't already, as a delisted free agent. I don't know exactly where he's at with his fitness. I know he missed some games.
Mental health going back.
Which,
But I think they needed, like, with Dan McStay hopefully getting back and playing a full season, and Membry, they're their tall forwards.
I looked at their list. They've been doing the best 22s over the last few weeks on socials. Their list on paper isn't a top four list with their aging.
Is or isn't?
Isn't.
Okay.
No. Well, their forward line is non-existent, and they win a premiership with a non-existent forward line. So all I'm saying is it's not that they're bad, and they're the best team in the comp 2 years ago. But their list, they needed a Membry. You're right. They don't have a key position goal kicking forward other than Myercheck, really, with Cameron's playing in the ruck. So Mason Cox isn't the guy, unfortunately. Their back line anchored by Darcy Moore. It's okay.
And Darcy had a moderate year by his own lofty standards.
Jeremy Howe's getting older. Pendlebury's getting older.
They missed Nathan Murphy. I know it sounds he was a name that
he's done.
Yeah, no, so they missed Nathan Murphy last year in terms of what he did as underrated role. I think there's two words. We mentioned this last time about the trading period and how they went. I think their ageing list or their demographic is the concern for me.
Yes.
There's quality there. There's no question.
Yeah.
There's great quality there. But I'm a bit on your side of things. I'm not as bullish about them immediately jumping back into a premiership contention. I think...
Well, why would they? Why would they?
Well, the argument that will be given is that you've recruited the likes of Dan Houston. You've got your forward line bolstered in the sense of, and they did have injuries as other clubs did, but I think they would suggest they've still got the quality to challenge. If you're a Collingwood person, I step back and go, yeah, I think they can play finals, but I'm not as convinced as others.
As we're about to go into the state of the game, I thought it might just be an interesting thing to do. You know how every year, Skeeter, there's at least two teams out, 2 teams in of the 8. I was just going to ask you a very, very early prediction. We're talking about Collingwood stepping back up. Who do you think comes out of the 8, and who do you think? I say, if Fremantle doesn't make finals, right, that's that whole tenure over. That they are all in, all chips down. Fremantle come into that 8 for mine, and if they don't, well, yeah, I think goodbye to a few.
Okay, so if I'm about to nail myself at the moment, I'll throw a dart out there and say the Giants
To leave?
to miss.
Yep.
And I've said it every year. I can't say Geelong again, can I?
No.
I mean, the Giants to miss. You can't expect the reigning premiers to miss, although it has happened the last 2 years.
Yep.
Okay, I'll be ballsy here. I think Hawthorn and the Giants to miss. If you're telling me for two teams to miss.
I'm going to go even more ballsy. Sydney and Port Adelaide to miss next year.
Well, okay.
Very early prediction. Mate, what Sydney have done in 2 grand finals over the last 3 years, and they've made them, right? And they've been the best side within. But from a mental point of view as a player, I think that would be very difficult to recover from, not being able to perform on the big stage. And not only not being able to perform, but not even rocking up in 2 grand finals. And a lot of those players played in both those games. I think they'll either try too hard to go to the next level
summer,
because I mean they were the best side the whole year, and then they don't rock up. So they'll either try too much and they'll get injuries and they'll cook them, or that they'll just capitulate. I think Sydney missed finals.
So give me I'll just go
and
locally.
Port Adelaide, because I'm not sure what they've done at the trade period this year, and I wasn't that strong.
You can
on
only
them this
be
year anyway.
up there contending for so long. Well, Sydney's been the outlier, but so if you go back to 15 when you made a grand final, what happened in 16 at the Eagles? And you've beaten pretty badly.
We made finals, but not very well.
And the Dockers, after making the grand final in 13, I think pretty sure they played finals the following year. I stand corrected.
15, they finished top 2.
Yeah,
We can do it, but you can't keep going back to the well. Does Brisbane win again next year? I know a lot of people are confident that they're in sort of the realm, but they've been. I think they're probably towards the back end of what
they've got the reward that they probably needed to get.
Yes, and for them, I think it's like, oh, thank God,
100%. And that's why back-to-back flags are so difficult. Yeah. And you talk about Collingwood, where guys had busted their baller for since 18 to get back to that moment in 23. They did that. Was it 23? Yeah, 2023. 24, Brisbane, bit the same. They'd made prelims. They'd made a grand final the year before. So I don't disagree with you that you expend as much mental energy to get to that spot, and then when you've got to go through the whole process again, sometimes you just don't have the petrol to do it.
Spoke to Isaac Smith on the potty, who's won 4 AFL premierships, 3 with Hawthorn, 1 with Geelong. And he made the comment about Geelong when they won it a couple of years ago. He said at round 8 they lost, and he was driving home with his partner. He said, we're going to win the whole thing this year. And he said, given his experience in the game and winning flags, he knew every single year. How
are you tracking?
Yeah, whether or not they were. No, he could tell if they were going to win one or not.
Oh, really?
And I said that's incredible. Like, why? And he said, to win a grand final, the premiership, almost every player has to have that drive, and you either got it or you don't. So you can't make it up. Yes, you can have your ups and downs in the season. So Geelong had lost a game; they hadn't started well, but he said it's actually a vibe that everyone's that driven and that on the same page, and they had that at Hawthorn for a number of years. And I actually think Brisbane's probably had it for a number of years, to be honest. They haven't been able to finish that prelim or get that grand final done, but they've just been, like, you can see that's a driven group.
And it's culture. And
so
look,
who is it this year? I don't know, but I don't think it's Port or
And
Sydney.
just on culture, I was at this Bucks Day, and no, seriously, and talking about Geelong, and this guy's a Geelong supporter. I didn't know this. Now you probably know this story. I hadn't heard it before. Now whether it's verbatim, I don't know. But going back to the Geelong culture and how good it is in the grand final of 23.
Yep.
So this is now whether this played out as told, I'm not sure, but essentially was it Cam Guthrie was subbed out of the game? So for Parfitt.
Yep.
And the mail is this is only coming secondhand that he might have exaggerated his injury to ensure that Parfitt was given the opportunity to win you'd still get a medal, but to have that feeling of belonging in a premiership team. Now, whether that's right or not to the
No, that's right. I've heard those.
You've heard those. Yeah. There you go. So that, to me, that is just a small example of Geelong and why they're not winning every year. But gee, you'd love to be one of their supporters, because you know that you're always around the mark, and that's the question you're now asking of Sydney and Port Adelaide, having not quite got there after a few attempts.
I mean, what? Yeah, I don't think there's many reasons Geelong should get worse. Where I could make cases for Port and Sydney, like I've made one for Sydney, why they could be worse than this year, and Port Adelaide the same thing. So, GWS I think probably get better. Geelong might get better. Brisbane are the ones I'm like, well, are they just taking the foot off gas completely? Maybe Bulldogs should be way better. Hawthorn,
but Hawthorn's an interesting one. Look, bumped into Luke Hodge at Telethon, and he was quite serious. He said, don't just assume that this is just going to trend that way for Hawthorn. Like it's going to all go.
No one ever does. Like,
no one does, but fans will,
yeah.
and media will say, well, they'll be top 4 this year because of what they did for such a long period. Doesn't quite play it that way.
No, because they were hot this year, and hot. They were running this right, and Sicily kicks that goal, and they probably, I don't know, they really challenged.
Yeah.
But you don't get to do that every year. Like no one does, and so Hawthorn win. That's from Luke Hodge, who's the captain. During the period, they win 3-3. So these guys, like hearing from Isaac Smith, like it's a really good chat. I just was eyes and ears listening because they know. Like these guys know what it takes. You and I don't. No. Like I don't.
Well, you do.
I know what it takes to win one, but I don't know what it takes to go back again. I don't know what we couldn't do that.
It shows you how hard it is.
Bloody oath. Okay, before we get into this state of the game, Skater, AFLW over the weekend. Freo are in finals.
Yes.
Talk to me.
Well, up. They're in.
I've got to be honest, Skater. It's been a bloody hard year this year. West Coast men, shit. Freo miss finals, shit. West Coast girls start well, but they've just come off a little bit.
They get a tick. I reckon they get a tick under Daisy.
Yeah, the only way was up.
No, of course, but
the Freo girls making finals.
It's massive.
Thank you.
Anne Stannett,
thank you.
Captain, missing for the year.
Lisa Webb.
Lisa Webb doing a great job. Kiara Bowers out as well. So I reckon what they've done, they've already achieved what they needed to. They're going to probably finish 5th, which gives them a home final.
Yep.
Percentage is probably not good enough, I wouldn't have thought. Well, certainly not good enough to challenge for 4th, unless there's an upset this weekend. They've got the Bulldogs at home. So, Wadial up, play a final, how deep they go. I'll be honest, I don't think they can win it from where they are and the quality of the teams above them.
Good sides above them.
Yeah, exactly. But I still think they have well and truly achieved their objective.
Will Schofield, Mark Redding's Shelter FootyCast. All right, Skeet, let's give our best little go at the state of the game right now. I'll throw some topics at you and we will get into it. New AFL broadcasting agreement, 2025 to 2031, starts next year, worth about $4.5 billion. What would you do with 4.5, you reckon?
4.5 billion?
Yeah.
Well, it's a lot of money, isn't
You'd be gone. You'd be out of the air.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, no, actually, I reckon
if you could live anywhere, where would you? No, in all seriously, with that sort of dough, where would you? If you could, say
you want to live around your mates. You don't want to go live on the Cayman Islands by yourself.
No, but is there? Yeah, that's a very good point. But
if you had a really good house here,
house here, where would be your holiday house, for instance? If you got 4.5 in the bank,
Hawaii.
Hawaii, yeah, that's fair shot.
You?
Oh. I'd be going right around the world. Hawaii's great.
You'd take me, surely.
Nashville.
Skeet buys a house on the strip at Nashville. See you later. These are coming. 2025, 2031. So,
yes.
Look, I won't be able to break down exactly what happens here, but like in brief, and you might be able to come over the top here, but Fox Footy will provide its own commentary for every game. So right now, and some people still don't understand this, on a Friday night, if you can watch the footy on Fox Footy, it is the Channel 7 commentary team that is being broadcast by Fox Footy. They then go to a studio where Gary Lyon and Jason Dunstall and Dermot Brereton are sitting there with Sarah Jones. They're Fox Footy, but they're not even at the game sometimes. They're just in the Melbourne studios, and then Channel 7 broadcast. That won't happen at all this year. Fox Footy will take all games.
Exactly. They'll provide their commentary. And you know what? I think it's terrific. I mean, it gives, I guess, options. If you like the 7 call on a Friday night, go for it. If you want to listen to Fox and the style they do, conversely, go for it. And again, just pushing that further, on a Saturday night, you might be watching Channel 7 and it's a call done from the east and you mightn't like the callers. And of course, you say, Channel 7's commentary's crap. Yeah. It's Fox callers. So, and it works both ways. Yes. Obviously, with people not happy with the 7
you
calls.
like what you like. This is like anything. Some people like the style of 7, some people like the style.
But you got more choice. You got more choice now with Fox going down the path they have, which is exactly what they do in the NRL.
Saturday is exclusively Fox Footy, I believe.
Yes. And But that means for our listeners here, just bear in mind, if, say, the Eagles are playing Collingwood at the MCG,
Yes.
being a Fox game, you'll still get to watch the match in Perth on 7 on free-to-air if you don't have Fox.
But definitely be Fox Footy commentary.
Absolutely. And also, now this is what I've been told, that there are going to be more hold-back games next year, which from a WA perspective is not good. So, in essence,
Like
because of Fox's agreement, the money they've tipped in, that it might go from 6 to 8 games for the season, where you might want to watch the Fremantle Dockers play against Essendon at Marvel Stadium, which starts at midday Perth time, but because Fox have put that as an exclusive and one of the 8 games, you then can't watch that till 3 o'clock, for instance, on Channel 7. So fans get upset with Channel 7, but it's not. It's a contractual position that Fox have wanted to draw more people to their product, which is fair enough. But 7 shouldn't be smashed over the head because it is a contractual obligation. They're not doing it to upset people.
I know cost of living is huge at the moment, and having to go and pay to watch your footy is going to be a big thing for a lot of people. And, I'm employed by Fox Footy. You're employed by 7. I think I'd hold this view regardless. The way that sport has gone around the world, how this is actually driven is the league. The broadcasters want to go and pay for the rights. They pay a lot of money, right? And the league wants that money to go and run the league, right? They want to pay the players. They want to do more stuff. They want to get more money, right?
The AFL is a non-for-profit.
Correct. But if you want everything free on 7 or whatever, or 9 or whoever gets the rights for free broadcast, you want everything free, the product's going to be worse, right? Because the money that comes in from these organisations, and again, whether it's Fox Footy or over there it's CBS or whoever it is, they are paying for those rights. And just you can't have everything for free, and we're going to go this way that you need to pay to watch the sport, because the sport will continue to get more broadcasting deals over the line, and they won't put stuff out for free. It's just not going to happen. You can think what you like, and you look at the old days and all of that. It's going to get less and less for free.
That is true. By the same token, we've held the line pretty well in Australia comparatively to, say, in the UK, where Premier League action, you just got to pay for it. To pay for it. Same with Test cricket at one point over there. So at the moment, there's a lot of pressure on the government to make sure that. And let's be honest, if you've got your mum and dad who are 65 or 75. And they've got a modest income or pension, and they watch their footy on 7, or they watch the rugby league on 9. That is, I guess, what worries me about moving forward. I know the logistics and the financials mean that it's going to go more down the pay-per-view set up, but I think they've held the line pretty well here. How long that stays? Well, at least till 2031.
There's not much going on for free these days, Skater.
But I do take exception with what you're saying. When it's free, you're not going to get the same quality. I think the quality of broadcasting on free-to-air in Australia is pretty good.
No, quality of league, quality of players. They're going to get less money. The more money that comes in,
of
right?
course, yeah.
The league is using that money to make it a better quality product. I don't mean from a broadcast perspective. I mean from an overall, like the league's going to keep going back to the well and getting more money.
Yes, and as it stands, players, when you look at the dollars you spoke about, are probably getting slightly, they might be saying through the Players Association, they're getting unders as to what the league is dragging in and what they're getting paid, because they're the stars of the show. But I think it'll be good next year. I think it's terrific. Opens up the door for, whether, Fox viewers get to listen to who they want. You might even get, Channel 7 here, do some of their own broad, because just as Fox can do their own broadcasting, 7 theoretically can do that with Fox games.
Yeah.
If they want to, particularly in markets like Adelaide and Perth.
I'd love to see more of this money, that $4.5 billion, and the rest of the money that comes in from a revenue to the AFL. I'd love to see more and more money put into game development, to be honest. And I've got kids that are just starting Auskick, so that's game development, right? Getting kids to play. There's never been a more competitive environment with sport in Australia. Soccer, both men's, but especially in the women's game. Cricket now will take over summer. And NRL over East. There is sports vying for people's attention. I would love to see as much money as possible put into game development and developing what it looks like for kids and how good it is for that. So I'm now a consumer, right? I've got kids at an Auskick level. How can you make that better? I just look at the group we work with in Auskick, and I know there's a few listeners that work at the Cardies. Mate, some of the guys do an amazing job, and they're all volunteers. Everyone is volunteers too, and this is how you get kids into footy. How can you put paid positions around the country in local footy clubs? How can you get local footy clubs to a better level where you're suddenly getting some of these kids playing footy longer? Or because again, as a dad and as someone who's been running the under sixes and under sevens, it's a bloody hard game to teach and to get kids involved and engaged. And if you're not very good, it's actually a bloody hard game to play. So I would just say, off the back of this money, which is what broadcasting money does, can you develop the game better? Can we do it better?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, apart from the Auskick, which I know there's work put in there, but there's so many resources, and so much effort being put into developing the female element of it that not saying that Auskick and others have been neglected, but there's a lot of focus, and rightfully so, because they're trying to grow and teach young girls, and that's when we're no longer doing this type of show. We'll sit back in 20 years and go, bloody hell! I remember the AFLW was. Let's be honest, it was rubbish to watch.
Yep.
At the start, and it was. And that would be no different to any other competition.
The AFL was, mate. I go back and watch some of the footy back in the day. Hardy won a Brownlow.
Brad Hardy.
Brad Hardy. I saw a goal of his on social media on the weekend. Right, one of the great goals of all time was the caption. He got it in the back flank and was running down.
No pressure.
There wasn't a player. There was not a player near him until he got 30 metres out from his own goal. So no doubt, great goal. But you would not see that there was, look, honestly, players were just running away from him. There was blokes just jogging in the middle of the ground. That to me, okay, good goal. I've seen better, to be honest. And that is the product back in the day. It was such a different game.
And don't say it's worse, because in many ways, people love the one-on-ones.
Sure.
Which nowadays, if you put the camera on top of it is, it's a bit like Auskick saying that the body's around the footy. So yeah, there's definitely some positives and negatives going back through the time. But the basic point is 4.3 in the bank for the AFL, and next year footy's going to look and sound a bit different. Fixture
quality and fixture overall. There has to be a Thursday night game.
There will be. There'll be. I think up to 17, 18 weeks next year. So you'll be catered for.
Great.
Yeah, you'll be.
It's my favourite night of the week.
Yeah, it's
good.
The
only one I don't really work, and I get to go and watch the footy.
Yeah, I think it's landing in a sweet spot, because you're right. Friday, people are at the end of the week essentially, and it's rates well. It's well attended. I think the AFL knows that's one night that they need to commit to for the majority of the year.
Do you think they're going to do much about the equality? There seems to be a ramped up chat about this, and I'm happy to beat the drum a little bit. All I've seen, I spoke about this on BackChat on Friday, all I've seen over the last week, Carlton doesn't want to play an opening round, and Collingwood doesn't want to do this, and the Bulldogs have got a request here, and Hawthorn want to play more games at the G. How about shut the fuck up? How about that? How about you just go and play in Melbourne and just get your thing? Because West Coast and Freo and Adelaide and Port and Brisbane and Gold Coast, what do they want? I haven't heard one thing from the interstate clubs. It's all about what Melbourne. Who cares what the Melbourne team wants? You just get what you get. How about shut up?
You're always behind the scenes lobbying, but I did laugh when I read the Carlton piece, because it had, I think Jay Clark did it, and Jay-Z came up with the line, don't want to be involved in zero round for whatever, because you might have to travel to. But then we've got an away game against Richmond at the MCG. It was almost like, I'm taking the piss here, because they probably would have travelled twice in 3 or 4 weeks.
So, well, this is the thing, right? And I'm overdoing a little bit, but so 18 teams, 23 games. 8 of those are interstate. I've probably stuffed that up. No, 8 of those are interstate teams. There's always going to be extra travel for interstate teams.
Yeah, that's a given.
You're not going to get it to where West Coast and Freo travel the same as Collingwood. That's numerous reasons, both crowd and
demand,
money and all of that, right? And the fact that the country is what it is. But I think with the chat that we had last week around North Melbourne selling games over here into the West, like that is a way that you can make this fixture more equal. You won't be able to make it equal, but more equal or more equality is what they should be aiming for. And that's how you do it, is hubbing teams. We know we can do this. We hub teams for bloody 10 weeks in COVID. That's how you do it.
And from North Melbourne's perspective, as we spoke about, you can make a ton of money. That's one way. I've also wondered, and I don't think, we probably don't have the right setup here either, with the lack of clubs on the west coast or west side of Australia, about the division, to having divisions. I know it's been spoken about, but I don't know, that's been brought up. We know the NFL, it does play its part in the NBA as well. Whether it could work in the AFL, I haven't done enough
I wonder who the best side in the competition in the nation would be outside of Richmond. Who were the worst? That's what you're talking about. Is that what you're talking about? Like relegation?
No, not relegation. About like they do in the NFL. They have conferences as such. Yeah. So
sorry.
Not relegation division. No, I wouldn't be. No, I'm not advocating that. No, I don't think that's just that's fanciful. But yeah, the NFL it has been mentioned. I just don't know how it will work in terms of having a fairer fixture, having better equity. It works, as I say, in America. Probably not here. But going back to the fixture, you're demanding 2 showdowns. You're demanding 2 derbies. You want to see Carlton play Collingwood twice. So it's always compromised to some degree.
I sat next to a Tasmanian on a flight to Cairns when I went a couple of weeks ago. Tasmanian that was a Collingwood supporter. And we had a good chat about footy. And I said, who are you going to go for in 2 years' time? He'd been a lifelong Collingwood fan. And he said he was swapping to the Devils. That would always watch Collingwood. Like that would always sort of... He said, for me, being in Tassie... To sort of claim that I'm a Collingwood fan and sort of just be going on to the Devils. He goes, I want to buy right in. I reckon the whole state will do that.
They will.
They'll scrap their allegiances and basically. Did that happen here? Like, did that happen here?
When the Eagles started?
Yeah. And Freo a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's not so much the Dockers because the Eagles had success. They'd won 2 flags.
Yes. But in 87, or 86, 87.
Yeah, look, the AFL wasn't even around. It was still the VFL. And we had to pay $4 million.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But everyone would have been going for a VFL side, or they have waffle sides?
Yeah, waffle sides were sort of starting to decline in terms of numbers. But yeah, I think a bit of both. I would have had a VFL side, but more so a waffle club back in 87. And of course, once that happened, first game against Richmond, it all sort of changed the dynamics.
The draft, look, I don't want to go too deep into this. Of course, the academies, the next gen academies, some of the groupings that they've got in the northern academies, father-son selections, the ability that clubs have now got to look at Brisbane that have gone and acquired 20 draft picks to go and get a number 1 kid in the draft. I think it's become quite complicated. For my opinion on it, I think as someone who works in the media that should know exactly what's going on, I don't.
No, I don't. I'll be honest.
I challenge people who did.
I thought you could ask me a question about it, and I can skim the surface of it like you just did then. But for an average football supporter to understand. As I say, the academy set up, and that's there's been pressure after what happened last season with the Eagles, unable to get Collard and not being able to use their pick to get their academy to try and push that forward, so they've got more security. So yeah, it is complicated. The father-son, I like it, the romance of it, and perhaps our mate thinks it's a crock, but I understand where that comes from. But again, all of these are compromises to what should theoretically be a fair fixture and competition.
Well, I think it needs to be more simple. Like for the punter.
Yeah, it is
like
quite
for you
complex.
and I, mate, like to look at it, and the draft will come up whenever that is. We're not that far away from it. The draft will happen and half of us won't know what's going on. Like it wasn't that long ago that we just, pick one and then we went through the draft and then wobble your head up the front with a photo. Now, mate, I think it's become too complex for regular supporters to follow along, and most people will have no idea what's having draft day, and they'll just get it. At the end of the day, they'll just see who their club picked.
You got your diehards who will know a lot more than us, but you're right. I think it is, and on trading your second round pick for if you all that stuff, or even on draft night, and the way it's played out. Yeah, I agree. It's become. You have to have I did Maths 4, so you have to have a higher distinction in mathematics at school than what I finished with.
Is that
Maths 4 was like...
Is that above Maths 3?
No, Maths 4 is as low as you could go back in the day. But I got an A. Yeah, so there you go.
Oh, well done. There you go, Mum. Okay, rules and umpiring and the MRO. They're both sort of intertwined, I think, of course. There was a lot of criticism this year around umpiring. I felt like more than ever before. Do you think that was because, I don't know, are we covering the game more? Are we looking for more things to talk about? Or does the introduction of another umpire either, I don't know, does it mean umpiring qualities decreasing because we're seeing younger umpires umpiring?
There's also 4 different sets of eyes out in the field. So it makes it, we've all got, you and I could watch the same game and have...
Do you think the umpiring was bad this year?
I don't want to say it was worse. What I will say is I think there was an uncanny number of times late in matches, whether it's, throwing that ball back to...
I saw that in the AFLW on the weekend. Why can't we use more common sense?
Yeah, so the common sense which Steve Margett spoke about at the time. So there were lots of late moments in matches, including the North Melbourne Collingwood game where there wasn't a 50-metre penalty.
Flopper from old mate from Essendon.
Draper. Yeah, so there would have been 6 to 8. So I think that attracted a lot of attention on that space. I think it's so hard for the umpires now, even to the point we've talked about with the sling tackles and just a normal tackle going back 5 years ago. Players are being penalised and even suspended for. So I have great sympathy and empathy for what the umpires are having to adjudicate with the rules because they're becoming tougher and tougher for us to look at, for players to understand, and for the umpires to officiate.
We know in off-season they bring in rules, they do trials. Is there any that you'd like to bring in, or is there any that you'd like to get rid of? I'll go with one I'd like to get rid of, and this has been spoken about a lot. The ruck rule, the nominate the rucks. I think it slows the game down. I think at times it looks ridiculous. At times you got the umpire speaking and blowing his whistle when you don't need it. Just 2 people in the ruck, right?
Yeah.
Right. If someone goes second up and you got 2 people, you got 2 on one team, then it's a free kick to the other side. You don't need to nominate for the ruck. We don't need to do that at this level, do we?
No.
I'd like to get rid of that.
Trying to think of something that might keep the game moving. Because we do have so many stoppages. The bottom line is you get feedback saying just leave the game alone because we seem to try and tinker it and change it from time to time and pretty regularly. And I don't know the reasons we're doing it. I guess the one that have we got the sub set up for next year locked and loaded?
That's a good question.
Yeah, and that's the one that I think there's been a big call to lose the sub, have your 5, and then be done with it.
Yeah, I think. When you lose that sub player or someone has to be subbed on, it immediately becomes a pretty big advantage, especially if that's early. If it's 5v4, right, just that's how it would work if someone got injured, it's less of an advantage to the other side.
Yeah. You always have matches where teams lose 2 or 3 and it's just a calamity, but you work your way around it.
A lot of people want to see less rotations to talk about making the players tired, more tired, so there's... I still think you want more speed and more skill. I don't think you want to bring anything into the game that, one, increases risk of injury to players. It's never been faster and harder, this game.
Ever. In terms of all that, are we seeing scoring stagnate, go... Obviously, we want more scoring than less.
I don't know.
No, but the stats, I think, at times show us that from, say, 5 years ago, despite all these changes of, the statue on the mark, the stand rule... Has it really increased scoring or movement of the ball? Maybe you'll say it has.
I think we can get too carried away with that. You can have good games and bad games. And you can have games where there's no scores and you can have games where there's big scores. Yes, there's a little bit less. I think that stand rule's become good. Overall for mine, I've got to stop saying for mine. Overall, I think umpiring, if we can just allow them to show more common sense and be less black and white, I know that makes it probably more difficult for them. But if they can, a black and white decision is me throwing the ball to my teammate that goes to the umpire. That letter of the law, that's a free kick. If we can just...
So what would you do as an umpire? Say, mate, you're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, just, mate, give me the ball next time. Just throw it up. Play on.
How many warnings do you get? Oh, but look, I sympathise with the umpires because that's in the rules. If you ignore the rules, you're not going to get a gig the next week.
But then you talk about the umpiring abuse, and some players are going off their head, and some umpires will just go, nothing at all, and then someone will
50-minute
one word, and it's a 50, and it's a goal. Jordan Clark springs to mind. So. Yeah, I think more common sense, and the trouble with common sense, Skeeter, my mum always told me, it's not very common.
But just quickly, late decisions, Clark being an example. There's so many late calls in matches this year that I think raised the awareness of, or certainly the spectre of umpiring and whether the calls were right or wrong.
The MRO and tribunal is based off some of the rule changes, especially around the protect the head. I don't think you can challenge protecting the head is a bad thing. I don't think that's a bad thing. How do we change? How do we improve the frustrations around the tribunal and MRO and confusion for players out there? I think, and I said it a lot this year, you need to govern and you need to make decisions on the action, not the outcome. The frustrations come from fans and from players when a tackle that seemingly is a perfect tackle and someone's head just lands in the wrong position or just off, it's a 4-week penalty. If the tackle's good and unfortunately someone hits their head, I don't think we should be bashing that player because their head's hit the ground. I think if you rule on the action, I think of the one on Jai Simpkin from Webster at the start of the year. That's about as bad as it gets. A diagonal 100% sprint jumping off the ground, shirt front to the jaw, throw the book, see you later. If that misses, right, if he just misses his head, I think you should almost penalise the action still. And some people would disagree with me there. Okay, if he misses, well, he misses, right? But it's sort of, we used to see a lot of attempted striking charges back in the day.
Yeah.
That's almost that for my, and I just think, yeah, I think if you do that, you'll get less frustration. I don't know if that becomes easier to play or to adjudicate, but that would be my solution.
And if you can govern players who go to ground and their head is either slightly,
Flinging it around.
Exactly, doing the fish.
Floppers.
Yeah,
the flopper.
And was it Stephen May who was it?
Yeah, he flopped. Yep.
Yep. So was he fined? I'm trying to think of what happened there.
Yeah, it was late in the game. He threw his head in the ground.
So they're the top two things which make life so much tougher for the umpires. Trying to draw a free kick, maybe trying to draw even a report. Yeah, that's one that I don't have an answer to, and I don't envy the governing body to try and ensure that we have a bit more clarity.
You can't be letting blokes off for being good blokes and good community servants like we saw with
Charlie.
Cameron. You can, mate, that was a disgrace this year. That is an absolute embarrassing disgrace that anyone's actions away from the field and what they've done other than the action. How have we? Are we serious with that? That was a joke.
Yeah,
that was a complete joke.
That was a standout when we all
embarrassing.
As much as we love Charlie, that was laughable.
Yeah, well, I love lots of players. It doesn't mean you can't get reported. It doesn't mean you can't make a mistake and get reported. Bad luck. It doesn't mean if you're a good bloke. What about the pre-finals bye, or we prefer a pre-grand final bye?
Pre-grand final bye. Clearly, I've said that for a long time. I prefer that. That's just my thought. Put it this way, what we're seeing, we've only seen it twice, mind you, Brisbane Bulldogs winning from outside the top four I feel like the advantage is just not as pronounced as it was to the top four teams.
Yeah.
But bear in mind, you work 24 weeks of the year, 23 weeks of the year to get that advantage.
Pre-grand finals bye, put a state of origin in it, and you'll two birds, one stone.
Well, do that.
That'd be great.
But have your
Put an
Brownlow
All-Stars
then.
game.
Have your Brownlow, have your All-Australian. It's a pretty simple solution, I would have thought.
Yes, correct.
And we've, banging on about it. I would go pre-grand final bye as opposed to pre-finals bye. That's just my thought.
Opening round. Yes or no?
As in, is that 0 round?
Yeah. Round
I understand
zero.
why they do it because while we're trying to get to Las Vegas to join the NRL boys, these guys are having a kick in the northern states, so that'll stay to some degree. It'll stay, I think, but I'm not sure which clubs are going. I think Geelong might be in the mix to be involved in 0 round next year.
Bloody hell. Stop canvassing the eastern states, especially the Melbourne sides, what they want with the fixture. Just give them what they get, mate. Just give them what they get. Skeeter, that's a pretty good run through, I reckon.
Yeah,
There's lots through. If you'd like Skeeter and I we've missed something, get something in the comments on YouTube, put something through to us on Instagram, or you can send us an email. We're about to go through a couple of those right now. FootyCast@BackChatStudios.com.au. Will Schofield, Mark Reddings, Shelter FootyCast. Bit of feedback from Bon on YouTube for you, Skeeter, straight off the top. I've been saying for mine too much, and I'm trying to stop. I just want to let people know it's a difficult thing to do.
What am I repeating?
Yeah, it's kind of, what did you...
I don't know. But you don't know until you're told about it.
Yeah. Skeet always drops the let's be honest, Bond reckons.
Oh, let's be honest. It's probably something I do. I didn't know that.
Yeah, but in the end...
Who was that, Bond?
For mine, it doesn't really matter.
Good on you, Bond. No, I appreciate that because you don't know until you reminded of it.
It's hard to describe. If you're just sitting listening or watching this and... you don't have to sort of do the media stuff. We are just talking, and
there's no water.
Do you know what I mean? We're just talking, and because you're listening to us talk, if we had to listen to you talk, I reckon you'd have some as well.
And ahs.
All right, Josh. North are currently debt free, but we're about to lose Tassie and need to make money to stay out of debt. As a North supporter, I'm for it. I'd rather see us lose in WA than not exist. That's from Josh on the North Melbourne Selling Games. I agree with Josh.
Yes, and to be fair, there's there's reason why North Melbourne. I mean, no club's broke because the AFL, for its broadcasting rights, always going to be able to prop them up.
For $4.5 billion. I think Callum Jamison could surprise if you as a key defender next year from Nev. I had a bit of feedback from this. I said there was no other key defenders. Yeah. Cal Jamison, I don't disagree with that. He was injured for most of the year this year.
He needs to show something this year.
Well, I liked him. Must have been last year. It wasn't this year just gone.
Yeah, 23.
I liked because he was sort of thrown into the fire a little bit. I think he's got the attitude to play. He has been a tall, developing, put a lot of weight on during that time as well. If you can get his body right, I don't mind that at all. Nev, this is from Rick. Firstly, welcome back, Joseph. Will you miss the greatest self-proclamation in history of your podcast? Whilst you and Skeeter were grading the teams on the last show, Skeeter, in a moment of pure clarity, claimed the following: I'm a C. It was golden. Big fan from Rick. Did you call yourself a C?
A C? As in
he's just saying, because we were giving grades. Oh, you were here for this, weren't you, Joe?
Yeah, yes. I was here. But we were grading each other,
we were grading teams, and apparently you've just slipped in I'm a C.
I'm a C. Well, that's been generous as well. Maybe a C minus.
See, this is what I'm talking about. On Instagram, come and hit us up. Shelter FootyCast over there. This is from Dylan. G'day, Scoey. Just wanted to give Skeeter a shout out on the brilliant job he did on Saturday emceeing the Curtin Uni Wesley Awards night. Only 24 hours after stepping off his flight home from
not
Dallas.
24, only 12 hours after.
Mate, you're just an incredible human, aren't you?
No, well, it's just, I got to pay
free of charges.
No, it wasn't free of charge, but no, it was a good night, good team. They've won a flag in the women's, and no, a really good club. It's going to be Craig White has gone to coach South Fremantle in the Waffle League team, and Nick Subin's going to be the new head coach there at the Tigers next year, so good luck to them, and really good setup there, and H and all the team there, good ammo club. Yep,
very good. I'm going to go with this one is from, not sure, no, still from Dylan. Question for the pod: are there any mature age recruits you or Skeeter think will get picked up from the Waffle this year? I don't know. I have no idea. You'd know better than me.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of, the guys that, just from the top of my head, finished high in the Sandover medal. That's not the be-all and end-all, but Nick Roker, Callan England was on the Eagles list. Mature age. So, I can't give you an answer off the top of my head on that, but what I will say is that I remember seeing Anthony Davis. Is it Anthony Davis? Yeah, young bloke for Claremont. Have you had anything to do with him?
No.
Davis, that's his first name, isn't it, Anthony? I'm trying to recall. But he kicked a bag of goals for Claremont in the last couple of home and away matches. He's a Colts player, but so he's coming through as a bit of an outlier. Bo Allen, of course, from a draft perspective. There's probably going to be 8 to 10 tops drafted. Mature age-wise, probably nothing that really, jumps out at me right now.
Yes. So from Aaron, did Skeeter win? I'm just reading this comment here. That horse at $51 won.
Did Skeeter win?
Skeeter won. So this is a follow-on from the boys, just pissing myself listening to Monday's pod. If you forgot to say this, just to clarify, I was a few sold a horse called Skeeter, $51. I read at the start. A follow-up to that. Skeeter in the fucking last. I'm so glad I've loaded up on the big sausage. Thanks for paying for my date night tomorrow night. Mark Reddings, you big naughty.
$50. And I didn't know anything about it.
Thank you very, very, very much.
At Northern, date night's an expensive date night.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, Northern, bloody hell. Uber out to Northern and back. This one's the last one, I think. Hey, lads, question. Before I ask my question, Will, I'm a diehard Essendon supporter. Oh no, I've obviously said something about Essendon without reading this. I'm sure I've written them off.
Irrelevant.
You gave Essendon a draft rating of a D plus. I didn't D plus or a C minus, and the only real thing you said was that we traded out pick 9 and got 28 back. We are doing what Lions are doing and loading up on draft points for Isaac Kako.
He's an academy kid, I think.
We got in return D's first round pick next year, which means we have our future first and D's future first. Package that up with our 2026 pick. Maybe we put together a little deal for Harley Reid. Ties to the Dersmers and very good friends with Nate Caddy. Also got rid of Stringer, which I think is a tough but much needed call. I wouldn't say we had an A+ trade period, but I think C+ is probably fair. If I gave it a C-, C+ isn't too much of a stretch.
Who's that from?
This is from. Hello, no idea.
Anyway, I think he makes a good point. You might have been too harsh.
Yeah, she.
Yeah, but you might have been a bit harsh.
On who?
On Essendon. Just on given he's put some logic on paper, he's giving a good argument.
What? That's from Kane. Kane. What did Skeet give Essendon? What did Skeet give Essendon?
Hey, we might be able to find that out.
Did you Scott?
I think I gave him
up?
a B+ or something. I think.
How have I been harsh?
I'm just saying he's painted a good argument.
Yeah, I do. I actually don't mind the argument.
It's a good argument.
I don't mind the argument. Harley Reid. Oh, someone asked me a question. I was commentating the AFLW on the weekend, and you might not have seen as much that I've seen, but the question was Ella Roberts, who's in her second year,
Star,
versus Harley Reid, and we know the men's game brings in more eyes and more money and all that sort of stuff. But in terms of impact on their clubs, who is more important? Who is the more dominant force? And I actually think Ella Roberts is bigger than Harley Reid to West Coast, the side. She is that good at football. She's that much better than any other player in the team, and that's no disrespect to anyone. I think I'm right, and I think all the girls would agree. Whereas Harley, yeah, good, but not. She's already great. She's literally great. She had 30-something possessions on the weekend and kicked a snag out of a pack. She is more and better as a person in that side than Harley Reid is to West Coast.
I haven't seen enough of her at the Eagles, but I saw a lot of her at Peel, and she was always going to be an AFLW ready player. So, it's a bit of apples and oranges, really. But I agree with you. Ella's an absolute. She could be, dare I say, she could be the best player in the AFLW within 5 years.
Less than.
Really?
Yeah, obviously less than. Absolute star. So they will have one more game, the girls. So West Coast done, Freo on finals bound, of course.
Taking on the Bulldogs, they knocked over the Giants. So, yeah, while you're up, get along and support the girls this weekend because they're going to finish probably 5th and have a home final.
Very good. Skeeter, I think that's us all finished off. We couldn't find what he gave Essendon, and I'm sure it was probably less than me. Hey? Oh, is that right?
But it was directed at you, so I said you were a bit harsh. So therefore, it means I was a bit harsh as well.
All right, Skeet. Well, Trumpy was on Joe Rogan, so maybe you can go and spend some time.
Yeah, Madison Square Garden. So he's probably, I can guarantee you, he started at 7:15 in the morning. I reckon he's still going. Just talking
Camilla's
about
apparently she's having a rest day today.
Cows are going to disappear.
Camilla's having a rest.
They're eating dogs.
10 days out from the election.
They're eating their cats.
What's she resting for?
On stage in Pennsylvania about 2 hours ago. You numpty.
What do you mean? She's having a rest. It's a rest day.
She's
today.
not resting today. You need a full-time rest.
Okay, thank you very much, Skate. Shout out the FootyCast on socials, FootyCast at backchatstudios.com.au. Please send me some more Skeet in the wild, please. That's all I actually wish for in life is to see stupid skater videos. That's us done, Skate.
I'm going to work.
Do ya?
Yeah, it's nearly 9:30.
Okay, bye.